and boo and raise a hullabaloo at the ball game today.
Hey everybody, it's me, Rick Acosta, the Dodger card collector, coming to you with another video. Today I thought I would talk to you guys about set building, my evolution as a set builder, as I've been doing it for quite a while now. And I noticed, for those of you that just watched my last video where I completed the 1950 Bowman set, how much my method of set building has changed since I originally started. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about my history in set building and potentially my future. So wanted to start off as being a child born in the mid-60s who started collecting in the early 70s, 1973 to be exact. The first cards I worked on were 1973, featured here with the Mike Schmidt rookie, along with Ron Say and his second rookie card, along with John Hilton of the San Diego Padres. Now, when I created, how would I say this? In 1973, it was a little different. All three of these years, I bought wax packs. So I was originally a modern card collector. I think we all were at one point. But the first 3 years I collected cards were 1973, 1974, and 1975. And bought these all in wax packs. 1973 was a little different. And at 8 years old, I didn't realize that the cards were released by series every 4 to 6 weeks. So I would buy like 10, 15, let's say in April, I bought like 10 packs. And then I bought several more packs and I started noticing I was getting a lot more duplicates. And then I'd get a little discouraged and I'd take a couple of weeks off. Then a couple of weeks later, I'd go back and there'd be a bunch of new cards. I guess those were series 2. And like I said, I didn't realize that. And this pattern continued, surprisingly, by me all the way through series 6. I do remember buying series 6 high numbers, the final series. I think it was series 5, actually. They were done with, there were only 5 series in 1973. But anyway, so I bought those cards in series. Maybe had 3/4 to 80% of the set, maybe a little more. Left it alone. Probably sat in a shoebox all winter long. Maybe bought some football cards. Then in 74, I started the process again. In 74 and 75, as we see here with the Carlton Fisk card and the George Brett rookie. 74 and 75, all the cards were released at the same time. So I would just buy packs all day long, all year. And they would amass, and I would build again. By the end of the summer, I'd have maybe 500 cards, maybe. There was a kid named Chris. He was on my Little League team. He was the first kid I ever encountered in 1975. He bought an entire box. He bought an entire wax pack. What do you call them? I think there were 24 packs in a box. He bought an entire box for like $3.60, I believe. And he got a lot of great cards. And that was the first time I remember that happening. But I bought I bought these in wax, and then they just sat there. Maybe eventually they ended up in the garbage. I don't know. But that's how I did it from 1973 through 1974 and 1975. In 1976, things would change. Now, in 1976, I happened to meet a couple of guys who, one of them I actually still talk to. And they were the first young men. We were, I think, 11. We did things a little different at that point. For 1976, I started buying wax like I always do. I always remember my friend Joey. Joey was finished. He actually finished the 1976 set before opening day of 1976. My goal of opening day was to have all the Dodger cards, and to think that someone had the entire set. That was amazing, because back then no one had complete sets. At least kids didn't. Can't speak for adults. But in 76, I had met some guys, some friends, and they told me about this deal through a company called Renata Galasso. I'll never forget that. For $10, You would send in, you'd send in $10. You would get the complete 1976 baseball card set along with a 1974 World Series program. And I did it. I remember I sold what cards I did have, and I ended up sending that in, and I bought my first ever set. Now, in 1980, it was a little different. I was a little bit more sophisticated. Those same two friends had now bought a case of 12,000 1980 cards. And what they were doing was they were going to put together sets from those 12,000 cards and sell them. I don't know how many they sold. I know that I bought one, and that's how I got my 1980 set. So in 1976, we see Dennis Eckersley. 1980, we had Ricky Henderson. These were the first two sets I ever owned. Now, I'm 15 years old at this point. By 16 or 17 years, no, I would say by the time I was 20 years old, all these cards were gone. We moved away. I stopped collecting. The cards sat outside in a shed, those type of things. So I rebuilt my sets. First, I built 1973. I built over several years. What I did, probably in the mid 80s, I realized I did like my 73 cards. I bought like a starter lot of 200 cards. And over the years, I'd always pick and buy 50 cards, 70 cards, put it away for several years. Finally, around 2007, I looked at my 73 box, made an inventory of what I needed, put the cards in binders, upgraded the cards that I felt weren't good quality, and I actually built that set and finally finished it. And from there, I started building the 74 set, where I bought a starter lot of 500 cards, and I started filling in the blanks. Same thing, 75 through 80. I think 80 and 79, and potentially 80 and 79 for sure, I bought the sets for like $60. But my goal was to get all the cards back I had from 1973 to 1980. Now, if I had kept those cards, the original cards that I had, those cards were really beat up. And that's something I like to talk about with a lot of my collector friends. When you're showing off your cards to your friends and they're like, oh, I had that card as a kid. I had that card as a kid. And they're like, my God, if I had kept it, I would have been a millionaire by now. No, you wouldn't. We did so much damage to those cards, you guys. Me personally, my cards were on the ground at home. My card on the ground, I mean outside and inside, including grass, concrete, the schoolyard. We held them. We put them in bike spokes. Your 63 Mickey Mantle card was not worth that much probably if you were playing with them the same way we did. We would trade them. We'd bring them to baseball practice. We'd bring them to our cousin's house. So, to me, saying I wish I had my old cards, that's not true. I do have some from my original collection, and one day I'd like to do a show with those cards because I do treasure those probably 10, 20, 30 cards I kept from my original collection. So with 73 to 1980 done, that was the original goal. All of a sudden, I started thinking about some other sets. With 1973 to 1980 out of the way, the next logical thing for me was naturally saying the early 70s. I had some of these cards as a kid. I remember especially the 71 set, because that was a set my brother owned. Not complete set, but he owned a lot of them, as did a cousin of mine. And at one point, my cousin gave me his collection, which was like a lot of 70 through 73. So I did have a good chunk of cards from those eras, and unfortunately, those went away as well. But I caught I caught what you could say my error. And over the years, I didn't realize this till I was going through my closets like 15, 20 years ago. There was an era where I would, every few months, I would open my closet door and I'd say, what's in this box? and I would find like 400 1972 cards, 350 1971 cards, 250 1970 cards. And I thought, you know what? Now that we finished 73 through 80, let's finish these and call it a career. Let's do 70 through 80 total. And 72 and 71, especially for me, were special. 71 because of my brother's collection. 72 because I always remembered the challenge of what were the high numbers and the semi-high numbers. Those cards were impossible to find. And when you did find them, they were expensive. The one thing I always remember was they were expensive and they were all in very excellent condition. So I decided to pursue 72 first. I bought, first what I did in 1972 was, imagine I had about 300, 400 cards that I bought years earlier. Then I went for $100 and bought a 500 card starter set. So I combined that, put the cards in the best condition. So now I had basically all cards 1 through 525. And from there, I started just getting a lot of high numbers and semi-high numbers through Greg Morris, through a lot of eBay sellers. We didn't have card shows going on back at that point yet, really, in Los Angeles. So I was doing a lot of this online. And eventually, I ended up building my 72 set. 71 set, the same way. 70 set, I would buy a big starter lot. Even though I already had 200 or 300 cards, I would combine the cards. I'd combine my lots. So I had duplicates. And from there, I started building high numbers. But that was the way I built sets at that point. Starter lot, depend on eBay, usually Greg Morris and a couple of other sellers to buy my singles. Maybe go to a couple of local card stores in the area that had singles. And usually by this point, 70, 71, 72, I was buying all ungraded cards. So, my bigger cards were always like trying to get like a Willie Mays card or a Roberto Clemente card, Hank Aaron card. But I didn't buy graded cards at this point. For the 70s, my graded collection compared to the 60s, 50s, and even the 40s, is very low. Like this Bill Russell card, this is the only Bill Russell card, or this is the only 1970 card I have graded. And but I did choose him because this is the first of the famous Dodger infielders, the famous infield of Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Say that had a baseball card. So I featured that in 1970. 1971, I just always loved Jim Fregosi was my favorite California Angel. And I loved this baseball card because I remember my brother owning it. So I went and bought this version. In 1972, I only have 2 graded cards. This Pete Rose card and a Manny Mota card. By the way, in 73, or in 71, I think I have like 5 graded cards. But this is how I built the sets back then. This was several years ago still, where I would buy a starter set and then just start building from there. So that was 1970, 71, and 72. When those were complete, all of a sudden I had this itch. I was born in 1965. I always loved the 1965 cards, so that was the direction I went in. Now, by 1965, just by looking at these 3 cards, I could feel the evolution coming, where all of a sudden I am buying graded cards. And in 1965, by the time I got to that point, I felt a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more experienced, a little bit more confident in how to build a set and how to do it properly, as opposed to buying beater cards or buying all PSA 9s, those type of things. I felt I could now build a set excellent for me to keep, or if I ever needed to someday sell it. But in 65, by the time we got to the 1965 set, I was starting to spend some money, more money than I had ever spent for the 1970 through 1980 sets, or anything past 1980. After 1980, I stopped building sets. I just started buying sets. So I bought several 1980s sets, one 1990 set, one 2000 set. And, I did build a 2014 Topps Heritage set, but Anything after 1980 was me buying, or was me just buying a set. Now in 65 though, my attitude changed to, if I'm going to be buying a Mickey Mantle card, if I'm going to be buying a Sandy Koufax card, if I'm going to be buying a Willie Mays card, I want it to be real. I want it to be authentic. I want a nice card. Just because I by this point I was becoming leery of, I'm not spending a lot of money to buy a fake card, because they are out there. So in 1965, I still did follow the same pattern of starting with the starter set. After that, I'd go to Greg Morris or a local card store or some eBay sellers and try to pick up as many other cards as I could. Then at the end, near the end, let's say you needed 50 cards. Some of them are common, some of them are high numbers, some of them are just good players. You start trying to pick them off one by one, and Mantle was one of the last several cards. Mays might have been in the one of the last 50. Koufax I'd had for ages just because I owned all the Dodger cards. But at this point, I had a pattern now of buying a starter set, buying commons, then buying the expensive cards. Luckily, I don't take too long building sets, I don't think. But if you spending 10 years trying to build a set, and that 65 Mays, it might have been $50 10 years ago, could now be $250 10 years later. So just a heads up when it comes to that when you're set building. But the 65 set was relatively easy to build. The high numbers or the final series really weren't that difficult. I think I remember spending $20-30 on some commons, but it was a fun set to build. And with 1965 done, I definitely thought, I want to do one more set, and I want to do a really old set. So what did I do? I turned over to 1953. So why did I choose 1953 to make my next set after 1965? I knew I wanted something hard. I was thinking 53, 54, 55, 56. My original thought was 1956, to be honest with you, because I think it has the most Hall of Famers. But then a friend of mine had made a point that 1956 kept using the same image likeness that 1955 and 1954 tops had. If you look at the Henry Aaron card, if you look at the Willie Mays cards, a couple of other guys, they seem to use the same photo or the same image of certain players that we saw Henry Aaron for 3 consecutive years. And for some reason that kind of deflected me. And then all of a sudden I thought, well, 1953 has Satchel Paige. I had a really nice Jackie Robinson card. So I thought, let's try the 1953 set. Also because the Dodgers had 2 rookie cards that year that were high numbers or late series single print cards, Jim Gilliam and Johnny Padres. And I already owned those. So I said, let's do 1953. So they're represented here by Bob Feller, Whitey Ford, and Warren Spahn, 3 of the dominant pitchers of their era. Now, this set I did a little differently. This was the first set. Again, I feel like I'm evolving. I feel like becoming more sophisticated. I feel like becoming a little more daring. I told myself I am not buying a starter lot like what I normally did. I didn't go out and buy 100 cards or 150 cards all at once. But what I did do was first I had the Dodger team set. Then from there, I ran into a very lucky day on eBay. I want to say it was Just Collect. I'm not sure. I think it was Just Collect. Somebody on eBay was breaking a 1953 set. And I thought, let's be serious here. Let's really try hard and bid on every card. Every card that you don't own, let's bid it. And I go, let's bid on every card $3.25 and see what happens. How long ago was this? This was several years ago. So $3.25. Let's see what you can get away with. I won 93 cards that day. So I won 93 cards. So that was kind of a starter set, but I did that all spending one Sunday afternoon on eBay. Cards just kept magically, I just kept magically winning cards that day. So between my Dodger team set, the 93 cards I was now on a move. This was a fun set to work on. There were some expensive things in here. Luckily, I had the Jackie, but I had to get the mantle. First time I ever spent 4 figures on a card. Maze, that was another one. Satchel Paige. But when it was done, I thought I had reached the epitome. Because in 1960, when I finished the 1965 set, I said to myself, what cards would you really like to have in your collection? Just so you could say your collection is amazing. And the first 2 cards that came to mind were 1953 Mickey Mantle and 1953 Topps Willie Mays. So I had them now. And I'm not showing them off. And the reason I'm not showing them off is because I've showed them in a lot of other videos. And I want to show you some cards that I don't always get to show you guys. So for me, I thought 1953 was the epitome. I now had this incredible set, and my baseball card collection was larger than anything I could imagine. And I was just really happy with it. Then I started watching YouTube, and I saw Alex Bowman 1953. And all of a sudden I said, I have to do that. So some of you out there are going, Alex Bowman 53, what's he talking about? I started watching YouTube several years ago, and I saw this guy, and I met this guy, and I call him a friend now. And Alex was building a 1953 Bowman set, all graded. And I thought that was phenomenal. He would make a video for every card he bought. And he finally had all 165 cards or 160 cards. And then he had this really nice box, this really nice wood box. And he showed it off to us in a video, and he showed all his cards in it. And I just thought that was stunning. And I go, I want to do something like that. So all of a sudden I said, I need to pick a set. And naturally, I'm not going to pick something like a 1966 Topps with 598 cards. And I honestly didn't want to copy Alex because I go, he already did it. I'm not going to do that. And I started thinking about what cool set would you like to build on? And I remember I was working with this young lady once, a coworker of mine, friend of mine, and her new husband collected baseball cards. And he had some type of old collection. I never got to see it. But I want to assume I just assumed for some reason it was 1941 play ball. And I go, 41 play ball. I go, boy, the same way I felt about the 53 Topps Mantle and Mays, I also felt for Joe DiMaggio. I go, wow, I'd kind of like to have a Joe DiMaggio card. And I looked up 1941 play ball, and there were 72 cards. So I go, oh, that's a nice small set. And I remember thinking to myself, you know what? Those Penzani display cases are 36 cards. I could just buy 2 display cases, and I could put my entire set up on a wall. 72 cards. It'll look magnificent. And at the same time, there were guys in my collection that weren't represented, like Jimmy Fox and Mel Ott and Carl Hubble, and I thought, let's do that set. So this set, I already owned the Dodger cards, which is why I'm represented here by 1941's NL MVP Dolph Camilli. I thought, let's do that. So again, there was an auction house. I want to say it was Collect Auction. They were breaking a 1941 play ball graded set. And I thought, let's be bold. Again, like I did in 1953. And I think I put a limit of I knew I wasn't going to win much. But I said, let's bid $70 a card, and let's see how many cards you win. I think first I said $60 a card. And I was winning at that point like 9. And I said, no, let's up this to 70. So I upped all my bids to 70, and I won 17 cards. I think it was 17 cards, or it might have been 23 cards. Take that back, you guys. I won 20. I won like 28 cards because I remember it being a lot of money and going, wow, where am I going to get the money for this? But I ended up, I think I spent a good $1,200 somewhere around there on 20 some odd cards. And I was rolling and I loved building this set. I got a lot of the big cards. Not at the end. Probably the last big card I bought was the Ted Williams card, but my last few cards were common cards. But the Dolph Camilli was one of my favorites, and then obviously two of my favorites, which I know are a lot of people's favorites, are the Charlie Gehringer card, along with the Bobby Dorr card. And 41 play ball. When I finished it, I was really happy. I think it's like number 22 or number 23 on the PSA set registry. I honestly thought it'd be a lot higher because the average grade is more than a 5, but it just shows you that there are 20 other more amazing collections than mine. So 41 play ball was done. I was exhausted. I don't want to ever build another set graded, all graded. It just took so much so. It's been over 2 years. I don't want to do it again. I really don't. And I go, let me try something somewhat easier. And I was still in the set building mode. So I looked at a set that a childhood friend of mine, was building when we were kids. So I looked towards 1957. So with 1957, like I said, I thought of a friend of mine I have not seen or spoken to in over 40 years. Growing up, he had a 1957 almost collection, near collection. I was 15 years old, and 1957 seemed like, revolutionary period. It felt like years and years earlier. And these 1957 were the first old cards I really ever saw. And like I said, I lost contact with my friend, and kind of as a tribute, in case I ever ran into him again, I thought I wanted to share with him, hey, I built a 1957 set too. So in this case, I won an auction. I won a starter set of roughly 300 and some odd cards, low 300s, along with this Roberto Clemente card and a 1957 Sandy Koufax card, which I already owned, so I had two of them. And left me less than 100 cards to finish building that set. And that was a fun set to put together. I put it together really quick. I had already bought several Hall of Famers in advance, so it was also showing you how things were changing. I was starting to buy some of the expensive cards first, as opposed to waiting till the end. This card was given to me by my brother. God rest his soul. He's not with us today, but I never told him I already owned the card, which was fine. I owned an ungraded card. He gave me a graded card. Never said a word to him that I already had it. Didn't want it. And I love this card. It's an amazing card. And then I loved how Topps back then, there was a Dodger card. They had to have a Yankee card. So I think this was one of the last cards I needed for the 57 set. That was the Power Hitters card. But the 57 set went by quick. From there, it was getting easier. Like I did a 1963 set, relatively easy. Again, I started buying Hall of Famers first before I would build a starter set. 68 was dramatically easy. Didn't take too long. I knew I still had a couple of sets left in me. And when I say a couple of sets left in me, I'm one of those, I'm not really I don't want to consider myself a hoarder. I have a nice oak bookcase where I put all my binders in. It had room for 2 more sets. I don't want sets spilling all over the house. So I decided, let's do 2 more sets. The first set I decided to work on was 1950 Bowman. So by the time I did 1950 Bowman, which was kind of recent, I had a completely different attitude when it came to building sets. By this point, this set is really where I said, let's buy the expensive cards first. Quit fucking around, excuse my language. I had started developing an attitude of seeing people who only bought common cards and then someday would end up finishing the set. I once heard someone I know say to me that he was going to build a 1933 Gaudi set. And I go, really? And what are you going to do about the Ruths and the Gehrig when you get to that? And he said, oh, I'll figure it out. And I remember just shaking my head saying, you're never going to figure it out. You're just going to sit there and you're going to buy 200 cards and spend a bunch of money, put them in a binder, show them to your friends, and the 8 most expensive cards won't be in there. So I remember just saying to myself, I don't want to be that way. So in 1950, I decided, let's start with the expensive stuff. I already had the Dodgers, so I had Jackie Robinson. That was expensive. Most I had ever spent for a card. I still think that's the most I've ever spent for a card, to be honest with you. Bought the Berra, bought the Spawn, bought the Ted Williams from my friend Levon, bought this Phil Rizzuto, bought a Robin Roberts. I bought all the serious Hall of Famers first. Then I started buying cards, the commons, the bigger, or the Hall of Famers that weren't that expensive. Guys like Bobby Dorr, guys like Johnny Mize, MVP guys like Bobby Shantz. That's how I built that set. Very easy. Once I bought like 20 graded cards, all Hall of Famers, and then from there I just started picking, buying cards for my friend Mitch at a card show down here. I went up to Sacramento, bought like 50 cards off a seller up there. It wasn't that difficult to finish. It was a fun set because it's such a beautiful set to work on. That this one wasn't difficult, but by this point I had evolved. I was now buying expensive cards first. I wasn't worried about the commons and all those type of things first. So in this case, I bought I bought Hall of Famers, bought some common cards, bought some expensive cards, but this was an easy set to finish. And I said to myself, and this is me just a few weeks ago, I'm getting pretty tired of doing sets, and I've almost run out of space on my bookcase, and I'm kind of developing an attitude to sort sets. Let's do one more set. And I thought, one more set, and maybe we'll call it a day, set building wise. I'm not going to stop collecting, or just take a break from sets for a long time. And that brings me up to present day, where I'm going to talk to you about the latest set that I'm building. All right, so my last set, the latest set, I guess the announcement I'm making it, a lot of my dedicated viewers will know, I knew this was coming. That's the 1961 top set. I had bought in the last couple of years, I had built the high number all-star cards. I think there's 22 of them. I bought those first, did those all graded. That's a beautiful subset. Arguably my favorite subset of all time. I'm actually thinking of putting them on a display case in the wall. They're so beautiful and they have so many great players. Bought those first, did nothing else. I should disclose though, I also had the 61 Topps Dodgers set from years ago. So I had those cards. I said, well, that was fun. I'm glad I did that. And all of a sudden I go, well, I've never really, yes, I did high numbers with 1972 and 71 and 70. I want to do a set with difficult high numbers. And since I'd already had the All-Star cards, I said, well, let me just do a 1961 Topps high number set. Series 7, which is 507 to 589. The high numbers being 523 to 589. I thought, let me just do that. And I'm not building a set. I'm just going to build this series and see what happens. So started building that, started amassing it. And, you're finding cards for $10, $15. But near the end, and I'm doing it. I think I'm doing it on the cheap because I know guys that are spending like $80 to $90 for some of the cards that I'm about to show you. I was down to 5 cards. And here they are. The first card being Raleigh Sheldon of the New York Yankees. And I'm going to give you prices on these because, like I said, I know people that are spending twice as much, and I see them for 3 times as much on eBay in excellent or near mint condition. So I think I spent on this one $30, the Raleigh Sheldon card. The next card was the Minnesota Twins first team card. They're still in their Senators uniform. I got a deal on this one. I think this one cost me close to 30 as well, but like I said, these are expensive and hard to find. I think these are a lot of these are single print. The next card was Jim Gentile. The Jim Gentile, I'll say that's his rookie card. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Bought that one. And this guy was a pain in the ass. Bob Serve. I was finding this all over the place, but it's expensive. I think I got a deal on it for 40. These Yankee high number cards, I mean, I know they're the New York Yankees, but they cost some bucks. So Bob Serve. And then the last card I finally just bought, I think I paid 30 something for it. That's the Pittsburgh Pirates team card. So all of a sudden I was like, all right, I finally finished the 61 Series 7. Is it Series 7? Whatever card numbers 507 through 589 are. I finished it. And I go, wow, I finished all the 61 high numbers. I'm happy. What do I do now? Should I start the set? Then I go, no. I want to buy a Mickey Mantle card before I think about buying commons. So I picked this one up several weeks ago. Got a good deal for it. Cost me less than $300, which I was pleased with because frankly, the PSA 5, I was looking at a 4 because the 5 had just gotten too expensive. When I saw the shape this 3 was in and the cost of it, like I said, less than $300, I thought, let's do it. So I went ahead and bought this Mickey Mantle card. And I was like, all right. And this was a card that I've always wanted just because it represents one of the most amazing years in baseball and one of the most amazing years Mickey Mantle had. And the Yankees had a great year that season. And it just, it's, to me, this is just one of the top Mickey Mantle cards, but I could say that about almost every Mickey Mantle card. And I thought, that's great. And I thought, now what am I going to do? Well, last week I met this guy on eBay and he had 360 different 1961 cards. And we were able to get a deal done, and I basically paid $1 a card. And through a promotion on PayPal, I was able to get $40 off. So I paid very little. In my opinion, I paid $1 a card for $1 a card plus tax for this set. Now, if I had gone to Greg Morris, which I went first and tried to win a few cards, I was only bidding $2 to $3 a card. I lost every bid. I could drive up to Burbank Card Store. I could probably get some nice cards, nice commons for $2. I thought, no, I want to do one more set, and I want to do it. I don't know why I'm like, I want to do it. I could do this set quickly without being crazy. So now I have started off with this. So I have built the high numbers. I have the mantle, as seen here. I have the rookies of Juan Marshall and Billy Williams. I have the Dodger team set, which includes Sandy Koufax and Don Drysdale and Duke Snider. And these are now going to go into a binder. And I will input my inventory into TCDB. And I am hoping with the Hall of Fame cards that I already own, the All-Star cards I already own, the high numbers I own, I'm hoping that I will have roughly 450 to 480 1961 Topps cards, which will leave me with a little bit more than 100 to complete the set. Yeah, there's Mays in there, and there's Clemente. I don't find those cards as difficult as other sets. Yeah, there might be something in there that's slightly expensive, but this should be an interesting set to work on. But I kind of want to make this my last set for now, just because I would like to focus eventually on just buying one card at a time, buying a 1938 Al Lopez, buying a 1956 Al Kaline, buying a 1962 Roger Maris, those type of things. So I've got one more set left in me, and I'm going to take you guys along for another ride. Some of you have been on several rides with me. But if you stuck around this long, I just wanted to share with you my evolution as a set builder for all these sets that I've been working on over the years. So if you stuck around this long, I didn't anticipate this video being this long. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.
It's a beautiful day for a ball game, for a ball game today. If you and I are out of dollars and cents,
Oh, honey, we can always share a little hole in the fence.
it's a beautiful day for the ladies. So throw all your dishes away. We're gonna cheer